I'm Gloria Horsley, and I'm interviewing Robert Neimeyer, Professor of Psychology, University of Memphis. And we're talking about lessons of loss. Well, Bob, you write about lessons of loss. You know, I've had loss, and I don't like the lessons of loss, and they seem pretty negative to me.
Nor do I. One of the sad realities of human life, of course, is that whether we like it or not, loss becomes a core part of the curriculum of living. It's not an elective that we can choose to pass on. And typically across the course of our life, we're going to have to take on board and figure out how to live in the light of many losses. One way that I am reminded of just the lived reality of loss is by thinking about that classic image by Edvard Monk, the Norwegian painter who brought us that depiction of existential angst or anxiety, the scream.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think of the scream, that terrible face, and boy, when you see that and you had a loss,
Absolutely.
he had it right on.
Absolutely. And he depicts a number of these existentially intense emotions. Another is in a painting of his called Separation in English. And it's one that I use on the cover of my book entitled The Lessons of Loss. It shows a figure who in the foreground is dressed in dark, maybe depicting his mood, grasping his heart and turning away effortfully from the receding image of his loved one who seems to be drifting into another dimension. In Norwegian, the painting is entitled Løsrivelse, which means tearing away or tearing free. And it gives me that sense that we very much don't like of being ripped away from a loving attachment, at least of a physical kind, to our loved one.
And it is a tearing away. I mean, the pieces stay in. You keep thinking, they're really going to come back. How could I have changed it? What could I have done differently? And it is fragmented. It's not kind of a clean break, for sure.
Absolutely. It rarely is a clean break. And when it is not, we find ourselves thrown into almost a crisis of meaning, where we somehow have to make sense of a world that now has been fragmented and torn.
Yeah, you know, I always think of loss as being like a tantrum. We have been told all our lives that we can have whatever we want, and we believe that, and suddenly there's something that we want more than anything in the world, and we keep going for it and going for it. We scream, we yell, we cry, we tear, we do everything that we can, and we still don't get it back, and we can't believe it. We still keep going for it unreasonably.
You know, I think about my work with Tricia and Scott, who a young couple who consulted me in the aftermath of the death of their daughter, Christine, at age 19, by suicide. And that was a loss which surely rocked their worlds, that really sundered the foundation on which they had lived. And I remember they're telling many stories that conveyed their quest for meaning in the loss. One arose in the near aftermath of that death, when they flew to the distant state where Christine had lived and where she had taken her own life. And upon leaving the hotel room following the funeral, Trish was still being a good mom, and for her surviving daughter and for her husband, she was tidying things up in the room and feeling under the bed to make sure no one had left any shoes behind, this kind of thing. And her hand came across a card about the size of a credit card, but thicker. She pulled it out, and as she looked at that, she was shocked by what she saw, because it was a picture of Vincent van Gogh's famous painting, Starry Night, right?
Right.
That many people feel reflects the turbulence of his soul as he grappled with his own many demons, many struggles. It so happens that Starry Night was also the music that she herself had been learning to play on the guitar, the famous Don McLean song Vincent, which is about the suicide of Vincent van Gogh.
Yeah.
So this was very resonant with meaning. A third layer of meaning was that this was the favorite painting of her daughter Christine, who had killed herself. So in the finding of this card, she felt an instantaneous sense of connection to her daughter, the story of her daughter's life and of her death, and to her own ambitions to somehow go on and make meaning of that loss in a way that allowed her to go forward.
Well, thank you, Bob, for being on the show. It's been great.
The pleasure is mine. Thank you, Gloria.